Hi guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com, and I'm doing another quick weekly news recap for all major MMO news and announcements for the week ending December 19th, 2016. This is episode number 74 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week comes from Peria Chronicles, and it's something I'm actually excited about. In a recent interview, the developers talked a bit about the game, and it looks like Peria Chronicles will be better comparable to Minecraft than to say something like Mabinogi. So the whole concept of players creating most of the content is still there. When they first announced they're going to redevelop the game from the ground up, I thought they were going to make it just another generic game, but that is definitely not the case. So it's an MMORPG where players create most of the content. Nexon has been talking quite a bit about Peria, so they're definitely getting serious about it and making progress. In the same interview, it was revealed that combat is not the game's main focus. Instances are also created by players, and even the game's UI is fully customizable. So you need to actually find drops in the game that customize your UI, and you can even trade those. Personally, I'm excited. Peria looks like a much needed breath of fresh air in the genre, and hopefully we don't have to wait too long for it. Up next, we have a game that just launched into early access this last week, Guardians of Ember. It's an isometric hack-and-slash action MMORPG developed by the folks that made Runes of Magic and Dragon's Prophet. Matt's been playing this one and has been enjoying it quite a bit, but it's worth mentioning that the game is not free to play at the moment. Players need to pony up $17 to play it. The game features 60 dungeons, 300 plus skills, a dual class system, and various PvP options. And despite the price tag though, it's doing fairly well on Steam, peaking at about 620 or so concurrent users. So many interesting ARPGs on the horizon though, I don't know if I can personally justify $16, but fans of ARPGs may want to check it out. Next up, some pretty big news from Kakao Games regarding Black Desert Online. From now until January 4th, 2017, anyone can claim a free 7-day free trial for the game. The free trial is 100% unrestricted, so you get to fully enjoy the game. Previously, you had to get a free trial code from someone who had bought the game previously, but that is not the case anymore. The free trial is open to anyone without a code. On top of that, Kakao is holding Holiday Sale, which brings the game's cost down to $5. Personally, I still maintain that Black Desert Online will go free to play, but if you enjoy the game during the trial, $5 isn't so much, and even with the drama surrounding some of the game's late game RNG elements, it's still well worth it. The game was a lot of fun in my opinion. And besides the free trial, the Christmas season is alive and well within Black Desert, as well as pretty much every MMO, so make sure you take advantage of those holiday events. And up next, MapleStory 2 in South Korea just launched a pretty big update called Restart, which rebalanced much of the game and shuffled a lot of things around. It's generally a bad sign when you have to label an update Restart, but at least on the positive side, Nexon releases absolutely adorable trailer to accompany the Restart update. Also, those looking to play MapleStory 2 in the West hopefully shouldn't have to wait too long. As we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Nexon's California office posted a job offering for a producer for MapleStory 2, which is a sign that the game is slated for an eventual North American release. They are hiring people for the game in the West, so it's a good sign. And up next, as for MapleStory news that's actually relevant today, the 5th job is actually launched in MapleStory this last week as well. Players need to be level 200 plus to access those, and the 5th job update should keep players busy for a long time, as just unlocking that 5th job is going to take most of the day. Plus, completing the rest of the content will probably take a couple months at least. And as always, to celebrate the 5th job update, expect a lot of fun events for the rest of the month. They'll be doing double XP event for the rest of the month, as well as I believe a burning event which starts relatively soon, which will be a perfect time to return back to Maple if you haven't played it in a while. Up next, Breakaway just did their first alpha weekend this last week, and it's an interesting game from Amazon Game Studios. It's actually their first game, and it is a MOBA. It's a 4v4 MOBA that aims to be quite competitive and integrates with Twitch. The alpha only lasted this last weekend, so if you want to know what Breakaway is all about, definitely check out my first look video. No word on when the next alpha test will be either. Next up, Wild Terra launches on Steam Early Access, and the game has nothing to do with the in-mass title. It's a whole standalone title called Wild Terra. It is $15, but it is on sale right now for $13.50. It's been available for about a year or so already outside of Steam, but it just launched on Steam in their Early Access program. And despite the Lineage 1/Legend of Mirror style graphics, there is something to it. It has a large open world, pretty in-depth crafting system, and even open world housing. And based on what I've seen so far about Wild Terra, it looks to capture some of that old Ultima Online nostalgia, and I think it may do that pretty well, but I think I'll have a tough time getting new players, but I'll do a first video for it relatively soon. Next up, Durango, the open-world prehistoric dinosaur survival MMORPG by Nexon, just launched the limited beta test, and that's on both Android and iOS. We are actually giving away beta keys for the Android version on MMOs.com/giveaway. If you want one, come check that out. I do believe it's Nexon's first survival game, so I'm kind of curious. I expect a first look for this one relatively soon as well. Moving right along, there's a pretty big update for Rise of Icarus this last week called Ranger's Fury, which is aptly named because it did add a new class to the game called the Ranger, which, as you probably guessed, is a ranged DPS. But beyond just a new class, they added an entirely new area to the game for players to explore as well, called Cloying Waste, which is open to players level 39 and higher. The biggest part of the update, though, in my opinion, is the increase of the game's level cap to 50. So if you've been taking a break from Rise of Icarus, now may be a good time to check it out. And in case you're curious, the game is doing quite well on Steam, hitting about 3,000 concurrent players at once. Obviously with the update, it did get a nice big spike. And again, those numbers are on Steam alone. Plenty of people are playing through the Nexon launcher. Moving right along, a bit of news for ArcheAge. Along with the 3.0 servers, the Fresh Start servers are also live and are incredibly packed, as we quickly discovered ourselves. There's a huge queue to play, but beyond that, there's actually some more interesting ArcheAge news. And that news is that there's a new mobile game coming for ArcheAge in China. This is on top of the other ArcheAge mobile game called ArcheAge Begins, which is licensed to Gameville. So now you have two ArcheAge mobile games as well as the PC game. So the franchise is doing quite well. This second mobile game, though, is developed by an unknown Chinese studio by the name of Zlong Game. Given that the first ArcheAge mobile game is being developed by Gameville, it'll definitely launch here in the West, but I'm not so sure about the Chinese one. Next up, Bossa Studios released a brand new trailer for Worlds Adrift, their sandbox MMO. Not much was really revealed in the trailer, but it's good to see the game making progress. The game is currently in alpha testing, and if you're lucky enough to have a key, you can play it on Steam. Early access for the game is scheduled to begin sometime in 2017. Unfortunately, no specific release date just yet. Given the sandbox crafty nature of the game, I'm looking forward to giving it a try though, when I can. And we right along, a bit of an update for HeroWarz. They introduced a brand new character called Ramirez, which should spice things up. If you never played HeroWarz, it's actually a really fun game. It's from COG Games. It is stage-based, so it has that same linear progression you've seen in games like Vindictus or Dragon's Nest, but it's still fun. And it's actually made by COG Games, the guys best known for L-Sword. Right along, a bit of industry news from Riot Games. That MLB deal we talked about a few weeks ago has officially been finalized and revealed. It's a $50 million minimum annual contract from now until 2023, which guarantees Riot Games $300 million. So basically what they did was they gave exclusive streaming rights to the LCS, to MLB, and for that they'll get at least $50 million a year, possibly more. Interestingly enough though, it's not changing the way people watch the current games. You can still watch it on Twitch, YouTube, television, and wherever else you're watching it already. So it'll still be available for free on major streaming websites. So given that, I'm not exactly sure how MLB will actually monetize this deal. However, it is still big news for the entire esports industry. $300 million from MLB, a real sport organization, kind of embracing esports, is pretty huge. Moving right along, a bit of news on Perfect World and Turtlerock Studios. The two companies are collaborating now for a new co-op FPS game. Turtlerock Studios is the company that made Evolve Stage 2, but they stopped working on that game and now they're working on a brand new AAA game, PC and console, with Perfect World. And barely anything is known about the game. All we know is that it's going to be free to play and it'll be an FPS and it'll be pretty heavy on co-op. So I guess it's kind of aiming to capture a bit of the Warframe market. Warframe has done really well for itself. I think maybe because of its really cool co-op elements. Next up, some pretty big news for Battlerite. The game's patch 0.1 officially went live this last week, and it rebalanced a lot of the game and revamped its entire ranking system, and the game's competitive Season 1 has officially begun. If you never played Battlerite just yet, you can still hold off on buying it if you'd like. The game does cost money on Steam right now, but it will be free to play on Steam sometime in Q1 of 2017 when it fully launches. And the game is still doing remarkably well, hitting about 4,900 active users on Steam, which is pretty awesome. It's definitely one of my favorite new MOBA style games, even though it's not like a traditional MOBA. And speaking of PvP changes, we have a brand new season for Guild Wars 2's PvP. The game's 5th season has officially begun, and with it comes many changes, namely improved matchmaking, which will better account for individual player skill. On top of those changes, players no longer have a personal score in structured PvP either. A top stat system awards players based on their kills, most damage, most healing, to give players better feedback on how they actually did during the match. If you never played Guild Wars, you're missing out. The base game is free to play, so check it out if you never have. Moving right along, some pretty big news for Trove. The game's console open beta officially began this last week, and that's for PS4 and Xbox One. The game's been doing quite well on Steam since its launch. It's still getting over 6,000 players, and given its popularity on PC, I have no doubt the game is going to rocket on consoles as well. If you never played Trove, definitely check it out. Even though you can't get all the classes with in-game currency for free anymore, I still think it's a really fun game. The next and last bit of news this week comes from Revelation Online, but news is specifically for the Russian version. The game's open beta in Russia is set to begin on December 26th, and in contrast, the Western closed beta 2 is set to begin on December 20th. So we're on closed beta 2 now, or, well, almost rather, while the Russian version is launching into open beta on the 26th. Given that information, I suspect Revelation Online in the West should launch into open beta pretty shortly afterwards. I have to guess probably sometime in January if I had to guess. So I expect Revelation Online open beta in the West sometime in January. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO News this week. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys.